interesting little tidbit about scones. They actually first originated out of Scotland and were cooked on a griddle and mostly made of oat, so quite different than what we do today. Hi, I'm Lisa Abeyta, and I'm going to teach you how to make some of the easiest and best tasting scones you've ever made. So hope you'll follow along. If you have questions, feel free to make comments. I'll happily answer, and let me know what else you'd like to learn how to make. We're going to start out with just a handful of ingredients. One of the reasons I like this recipe is because there is no egg in it. A lot of scone recipes have egg, and in my opinion, egg makes it feel really tough. So what I use for the fat in the liquid is just heavy cream. So all you need to make this recipe is flour, sugar, baking powder, salt, heavy cream, and vanilla. That's it. So if you have those things, you can make some scones. So let's get started. First, we're going to add a couple of cups of just regular all-purpose flour into our bowl. We're going to add a little bit of a heaping tablespoon of baking powder and about a half a teaspoon of salt and about 2 to 3 tablespoons of sugar, granulated sugar, just regular sugar. And we're going to take a spatula and we're just going to kind of blend those together, because you don't want all of your baking powder and salt to end up in one spot. So you make sure that all of the flour ingredients and dry ingredients are mixed together fairly well. Now this is the cool part. This is how easy these are. We only have 2 more ingredients and they go in together. But what we're going to do, and you only have to do this if you want to spread some of the liquid on top of the scone before you bake it, which will make it, one, a little bit shinier, but also a little bit crisper on top. And if you wanted to add like coarse sugar, the liquid will help it stick. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of our heavy cream and we're going to stick it in a bowl and we're going to set it aside. And then in your flour, you're going to make kind of a well so that you can add all of the liquid ingredients and have them just kind of sit there till you're ready to mix them. And you're going to pour the rest of a 16-ounce bottle of heavy cream into the bowl. Now the one thing I would encourage you to do is use Mexican vanilla. It's a lot different tasting than regular vanilla that you buy in the store. And if you can't find it where you are, they do have it online, so you can order it there. We're going to add a little bit of vanilla to that set aside heavy cream, and we're just going to leave it sitting over here. And then we're going to take our measuring spoon. I normally don't measure, but I'm going to try to measure so you guys know how much to put in. And we'll put about a tablespoon of vanilla. That doesn't look like quite enough. Let's do about 1.5 tablespoons of the Mexican vanilla. Now, if you're using regular vanilla, you cannot use that much because it will just taste chemically. If you're using regular vanilla, go ahead and just use like 1 teaspoon of it. But if you're using the Mexican vanilla, it has a much more organic taste and it won't end up tasting chemically. Even if you add more, it'll just have this wonderful, rich vanilla taste. So first what you're going to do is you're going to stir that little well of liquid in the top of it to get it blended in there. And now you're going to start adding the flour into the liquid, and see if you can see how I'm doing this. It's kind of these little light, fluffy mixes here. And with a shortbread, the less mixing, the lighter it's going to be. When you're making bread, it's kind of the opposite. You want to beat the daylights out of it when you first put the yeast in because you want to activate the yeast. But when you're cooking with a shortbread, the lighter touch is going to be exactly what you want. So as you can see, it's a little bit gooey, so we're going to have to add more flour when we go to turn it out onto our board. So that's what we're going to do now, is we're going to flour the area where we're going to press it out, and you're just going to put flour all over that surface so that it doesn't stick to the surface, like that. And then you're going to pour it out onto the board. it into the middle of this area. See how it's sticky? We're going to fix that. But it's easier to add flour than it is to try to add more liquid. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a little more flour. We're going to put it over the top. Now, just going to press it down. And if you notice, the inside of it is still crazy sticky. And when you're doing this, if you end up not putting enough flour on, then what's going to happen is it's going to stick to your fingers. So that's part of why we add more flour to it, is because that way we can get the shape that we want. And if you notice, I've kind of made like a little circular shape, and it's about to my knuckle. So you want it to be about that tall. And now you can kind of brush off all of the extra flour that you had. And now what we're going to do is we're going to cut it. And here's a trick to getting it to cut without getting whatever you're using to cut stuck again. What you do is you kind of layer the edge of it with flour, and then you're just going to make a cut across. Now what I'm using is what they call a pastry tool, but you can use a dull knife, anything that you want. It's just to be able to get a sharp cut across. So we're going to do it here again. Now we're going to add a little more flour again. We're going to cut it here. You can make these as small or as large as you want. If you can make it like this, you're going to end up with fairly even-sized ones, but they are fairly big, so you only need to consider one per serving for whoever's going to be eating them. Now what we're going to do is we're going to transfer these to either a baking sheet, or I use parchment paper because I have a baking stone in my oven. So if you have a baking stone, use parchment paper. Otherwise, you can just spray the bottom of a cookie sheet and have them put on the cookie sheet. And now we'll show you how to do that. What we're going to want to do is lift them up. And you can kind of flip them over, and you're going to want to kind of shake off the flour. And you can set them kind of in angles on your sheet. And you want to leave about 1.5 knuckles apart. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to brush that set aside liquid that we had. If you don't have a pastry brush, you can actually use your fingers, or you can use a spoon and drizzle. But a pastry brush is pretty cheap, and it'll last you several years, so it's not a bad thing to invest in. So what we're going to do is we're going to give it a generous dabbing all over the top. And then before it dries out, we're going to sprinkle a little bit of coarse sugar. So there you go. Now they have a nice little layer. And now what we're going to do is sprinkle the coarse sugar on top. And then we're going to put them into an oven that's been preheated to 425 degrees. So that's it. In just a few minutes time and a few ingredients, you have a wonderful treat to share with your family or friends, or to enjoy for yourself. Thank you so much for watching. If you have questions, if you make this recipe and want to share, please send me photos. Would love to see what it is that you're cooking, and if you have questions or ideas for other how-to videos, let me know. I'd love to help you learn how to cook things that are easy and fast and wonderful. So thanks for watching. Delicious.
Okay.
Oh, you missed that part.